What is up? What is up? Welcome back to another NBA Rundown brought to you courtesy of Run Pure Sports and Run Pure Bets. Sorry for the late start. Thank you for sticking with us. I'm joined today by AP. AP, how's things been going with you? I've been using the heat map, man. What a great addition to the Run Pure content.
Yeah, thanks. No, it's been going good. Yesterday's slate was really interesting. So I had my daughter's winter dance program or whatever, and so I had like a 2-hour window where I was not going to be able to check my phone because it's like a formal event or whatever, and just got to be respectful. And so I missed the Giannis news. I was already underweight on the OKC value because I just thought the game was going to blow out. One of the funnier calls in chat was I said they weren't going to hit 80 points and they hit 79. So it was fun. But I had this nut script going and all I needed was the late game because I locked in Randall. So I hit that. And then I had a ton of Derek White. I had a ton of DeJounte Murray, Pirtle, and just I needed the Blazers to keep it close. And obviously missed out. Sometimes it doesn't go your way. In NBA, it's sometimes you get those slates that are weird where you get multiple blowouts. And so it is what it is. There's always another day, as we often say.
Yeah, and I said it yesterday when we were on the show with JSU. And of course, we don't want to react too much to one game, but I said, man, without Damian Lillard, this Blazers roster is, like Kings, Pelicans level. Yeah. I mean, it's really bad with all the talent in the NBA. And that showed through last night. It will be interesting to see if they can get things together. But let's move on to today's action. We got a lot of exciting games and can't wait to talk to you about it because, I have a lot of leans here. But I actually didn't love today's card, but I'm sure after we talk this through, we're going to find some great plays. The first one is the Miami Heat heading to Indiana to take on the Pacers. Once again, injury news rules the day. No Markieff Morris still. Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, both still out. Justin Holiday out for the Pacers. My original lean is, usually I'm a big fan of the superstar subtraction. This seems to be a little too much. Then we add in the matchup, right? Without Bam there, we know Indiana's a bigger team. They can pack the paint. And, I think they're going to get it done against a very depleted Miami Heat team. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I agree with you here. I like the Pacers side. So, look, they've played 3 tough games. Actually, 4. I mean, they've had a tough stretch here. Bulls, they won. Lakers, they lost. It was a close game. They beat the Raptors. And then they lost to the Bucks, the Wolves, and the Hawks. So, when I look at this on paper, a healthy Pacers team coming in against a very depleted Miami team, I just think it's going to be too much. I think the game will stay close, but, man, this Heat team is a different team. At least they have Hero. That is some offense. Without Hero, they are a complete mess. But I got the Pacers in this one. I think they win by maybe 8 to 9 points. It could be close, but I think they just pull away. I think Miles Turner, Sabonis, and then I like Chris Duarte in this lineup. I think he's going to add some nice offense there. The guy maybe it's just too many mouths to feed. I think that's a fine explanation. Karis Levert, though, maybe he's just fallen into his role. It seems like he's not the same player that we're accustomed to seeing, which could be fine as long as the Pacers start winning games. But it just seems like he's not having a strong impact. Maybe it's just my DFS goggles. I'm not sure. Do you have a read on Karis Levert and kind of his game right now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's 100% yet, and I'm wondering how long it's going to take for the fact that he gets back to where he was. Obviously, the guy's been through a lot, right? But he claimed that the trade saved his life because they found the health issue, and then they're able to get that, and then he suffered, just the normal injuries as well. So obviously struggling to get back in the pace of the game. And, as I'm going to ask you this next question on people we roster, right? The salary reflects that at 5,700. He got 14 last game. He's at 22 over the last 10 games, 24 fantasy points per year. He hasn't been much of a producer here as he kind of eases back into his role. So I'm seeing the same thing as you are. This guy is not the same player that they hoped when they acquired him last season.
Yeah. My one last comment kind of on this game too, Dwayne Dedmon. So he's projecting to be chalk. It makes sense. It makes perfect sense with the size that these the Pacers bigs, they're going to need size on the court. And My one worry is Dwayne. He's a guy that often gets into foul trouble. He's 4'8" now. He's not 3'1". If he hits 30, it doesn't kill me at all. But he definitely has a floor here. So in tournaments, I don't hate the idea of being underweight on him. I think in my main tournament lineup, I'm probably going to go elsewhere. But that's kind of my final comments. Tyler Hero, obvious, definite core play you can build around. He took 23 shots last game. He's probably going to take another 20 plus tonight. So if he gets hot, he could definitely hit value.
All right, yeah, 7,500 could be a good way to start your lineup. But AP and I agree there. Hey, we'll be chalky on a Friday night. We'll lay the 5 total, only 206. Are we a little worried? That's a pretty low number, right? But are we worried about Miami getting there against Miles Turner and this bigger Pacers team?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you got to ask yourself, where is scoring going to come from? The Heat can't win this game in a shootout. They have to win it by playing good defense. So I don't bet totals this low, but if I had to bet if I had to bet a side or total here, it would be under. Wow. I mean, I don't feel good about it. Yeah, I don't feel good about it at all, but I just don't I think Miami scores, without Bam, without Jimmy. I mean, man, you got Duncan Robinson. If he could actually make a shot, I would have some confidence in the over here, but he's been really bad. And then look at the guys you have off the bench: Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent. I mean, Matt Struss, guys that just aren't that good. So I lean under. I don't feel good about it and wouldn't bet it. It's just too low for me.
All right, that makes sense. The Cleveland Cavaliers are down to +3. This is as high as 4.5 last night, AP. But hey, I see why they're the popular side. 14-6-1 against the spread this year. Washington Wizards, that team I'm high on as well. As this number keeps dipping, these are two teams that I both like to bet on this year. I just wonder, at what point does the value on the Cavaliers end? And it feels like tonight might be the night. If you would have said before the season that the Wizards would only be laying 3 here, right? We would all bet it, in the middle of October here. So I lean towards the Wizards here, even though the Cavaliers have been so kind to me. I haven't got involved yet just for that very reason. I'm just wondering, we always talk about sell high. When is the high point for this Cavaliers team?
Yeah, I think you said it really nicely there. I think it's a perfect sell high spot. The Wizards, they have this starting, like their core guys and the guys they can rotate in. It's an interesting group that's working. I mean, Dinwiddie, one thing he's been doing is slowing the pace down. And then, you can work the offense through him or through Bradley Beal. We haven't seen Bradley Beal go off too. It's like he's doing all of this, and it's not like he's taking games over. I believe he can at any point, but they haven't really needed him to. So I do like the Wizards -3 here. I think you're getting some value in that line. So I'm going to agree with you. DFS wise, I've heard people talk about Gafford. My one fear is he's splitting minutes with Montrezl Harrell, and he's gotten most of his fantasy points through blocks, steals, and being a beast that he is down in the paint. And it's a volatile stat and could change at any time. And so I do worry a little bit about him there at his elevated price tag too. So I'm not quite sure. I think I'd rather go to the other side of this game. We've seen bigs, especially mobile bigs, have some success against the Wizards. I like Evan Mobley and I like Jared Allen. Those two are beasts, and they're going to get all the minutes that they can handle.
Yeah, Gafford's definitely interesting. I mean, the guy's averaging I'm just doing a quick one off the top of my head. Last 10 days, about 1.3 to 1.4 fantasy points per minute, but he's only averaging 25 minutes per game. Boy, if we knew he was getting around 35, right, it would be a smash spot. But it seems like priced correctly just because, as you mentioned, the minutes limitation there. We both like Washington. Total here, 209. What's your thought?
Yeah, so it's another game where these Wizards. So Dinwiddie he just slows the pace down. At least that's what I've seen. So it's just another total I'm staying away from. I definitely feel far more comfortable in the line here. Keep an eye on some injuries. Denny, he's questionable, I believe. So is Aaron Holiday.
They both went through.
Oh, did he?
Around.
Okay. Yeah. So you're going to get a wide rotation there. I mean, they're going to get Denny minutes. They're going to get Davis Bertans some minutes. Potential Aaron Holiday. So big rotation, tough to target in DFS. Honestly, I think the optimizers might force in some Spencer Dinwiddie at 5'9". It's just a low price tag, and his projection is going to be, maybe in the 30s. I would underproject him. I think it's kind of a trap at this price. He could get there if the scoring's there. I just have not seen it lately. And it's not like he's getting big minutes either. He's right around 30 a game.
All right, let's move on. This is a fun game. Philadelphia Sixers plus 1.5. Atlanta Hawks minus 1.5. The total's 216 here, right? And we know that Mangone loves to talk about revenge, right? And I kind of, make some fun of him for that. We have some fun with it. But see, this to me is where it actually applies, right? The team that knocked you out of the playoffs, right? And you think about those losses all summer, right? You're not thinking about some random game in April. You're thinking about the team that eliminated you. And so I feel like that's going to play in effect tonight. Certainly was in effect the first time they met, as Philadelphia won by 20-plus points. And now it's their second meeting. I believe that one was in Philadelphia. This one is in Atlanta. The line is minus 1.5. When we look at the Sixers team, we know that Embiid is back. Who else do I have? So Tobias Harris is questionable. I'm thinking that he's not going to make it, and Cam Reddish is out for the Hawks. I don't know. I kind of lean Philly here, but I haven't got involved yet. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, honestly, I think, it's kind of tough. I like this game much better for DFS purposes. Trae Young, one rule I've had all season long is to look at good guards, elite guards against this Philly team. They just have not been good against opposing backcourts. And we got one of the best guards in the league in Trae Young. And people have mentioned, I've heard mentioned, Thibault, he's back. Good defender. But look, teams switch. Teams know how to get their star players open, and there's the rare case of the Warriors where they have multiple shooters. We saw it. Mikal Bridges, really locked up Curry, but Poole's going off. So Curry did not need to take over the game. This game, you have Trae Young, and the other guy you could make a case for. If you don't like him and you think that Thibault is going to shut him down, you go Kevin Huerter. 5-1, I know, bigger price tag, but who else do they have? You're not going to play TLC. You're not they're going to give Lou Williams a little run off the bench. Gallinari is going to get a little bit of run, but it's Trae Young. It's Kevin Huerter. And I think another guy going under the radar here, but Joel Embiid. This guy, he put up a 56 piece against Boston in 33 minutes, and he only shot 3 for 17.
He was 3 of 17 against Al Horford. And we talked about that on the preview, right, where I said, hey, man, Al Horford has pretty much been the best defender against Embiid, over the course of Embiid's career. And, they were a little worried. They said, hey, he's old. Hey, he's this. And I said, a lot of that is knowledge. It's not athleticism, right? It's not something,
right.
It's not, that's got to getting him to work there. Now he matches up against Clint Capella, who in theory should be able to stop him, but has not had the same success. We're always interested in him, right? I've never seen a show where you guys just gloss over Joel Embiid, but is there a way we could put Trae and Embiid in a lineup and just punt some rest of the positions, or is there not enough value tonight?
Yeah, there's some value for sure to make it work, and people are loving these mid-tier builds. I think it's maybe a function of the lower scoring that we're seeing kind of across the league, but you're going to get different tonight, paying up. But we saw it, so we've seen it recently a few times. We saw LaMelo, Giannis. That game went nuclear, but if you stacked it up, you had to stack it with Giannis and LaMelo. The other pieces in that game did not go off as far as tournaments are concerned. You did not hit the score that you needed to hit, but LaMelo went nuts. Giannis went nuts. So I love the idea of taking Joel Embiid, taking Trae Young, pairing them together, and then we'll get to some of my favorite value on the slate. But if you want to take that route, I think it's going to be a fun route to go in tournaments for sure.
Yeah, I think it's great, right? And even the dichotomy, right? You got the sharpshooting small guard that's going to sit there and just run it up with 3-pointers and assists. And then you have Embiid down low that's going to get you points, rebounds, and blocks. So a lot of fun. I don't know if we gave a side on that game, though. So let's just say, we always talk about this. It's never happened yet. But the scenario where I'm in the sports book, someone comes up and gives me $100 and says, you have to bet on the side of this game. Never happened. I even wear my Run Pure gear when I go up to Reno and Tahoe. Still hasn't happened yet. But let's just say that did actually finally happen, AP. Would you take the Hawks or the Sixers?
Yeah, can I go over under instead?
Yeah,
I
sure.
think I'm going to go over. So
Okay.
People are going to look at this line, and they're going to look at some of the games that Philly's had, and they're going to think under. I think that's just the popular bet, the trend that we've seen in the NBA. I like the pace that the Hawks are playing at, and we know Trae Young's going to take 20-plus shots a night. We know Kevin Huerter's going to take a ton of shots, and then I think Embiid gets it done too. So I like the over in this one.
All right, AP likes the over. Reminder, this show is brought to you by Run Pure Sports and RunPureBets.com. Head on over to Run Pure Sports. Become a member if you haven't already. Use the promo code GETBETS, and you'll get access to both sides. You'll get access to DFOs, DFS cores, the play, the final countdown, the live private shows, and, of course, on the same side, you'll get access to my plays, JJ's plays, Sports Keg, Tyler, Score with D, and, of course, those private live shows as well. So make sure you're checking that out. Let's move on to the next game. Minnesota Timberwolves +7, heading to Brooklyn to take on the Nets. This line was 8, but then I think that Towns questionable. We haven't got any news, and Anthony Edwards up to probable, which makes sense to me. So this one, I wrote about it this morning, so I have to make a pick. And on that one, I took the Timberwolves. But I'll tell you what, I really like the play if I know that both these guys are in. And I even think they can absorb the loss of Edwards more than Towns. And my idea is how do you beat Brooklyn, or at least keep it close? You beat them inside. I think Towns will be able to do that with scoring and rebounds. So if Towns plays, I really like Minnesota. Let's just assume that he does. Would you agree with me here?
Yeah, I mean, the issue with the net. I mean, yeah, I think you could make a case either way. I don't feel good about it. I just hate betting against this Nets team with James Harden and Kevin Durant. The way I think you get it done and you get a win here is if Anthony Edwards has a big game, and if Harden's off a little. We've seen these games where Harden, 4 for 15, 4 for 13, where he's just not aggressive. And so if you get a game where all the pressure's on KD and Harden's just being that facilitator, I like their chances there. So for me, it's kind of a toss-up. I don't feel that great. Like this Timberwolves team always kind of worries me. Like I get high on them. They look good. I'm out there like, man, D'Lo looks good. He's jiving really well. But we've seen the times where the Timberwolves just haven't looked good at all. And so that kind of worries me. But one thing I picked up on is whenever those guys kind of get off rhythm, it seems like Anthony Edwards is there to kind of pick things up. So, like, if you're looking at the ebb and flow of the game, like D'Lo will be cooking. He'll be, setting the pick and rolls with Towns or even Naz Reid. They've been running these double big lineups. It's kind of interesting. That's worked really well. But then, as the game goes on, teams adjust. It's a little bit more difficult. That's when Anthony Edwards then picks up. So, like, it correlates well with Chet because people that play Anthony Edwards, they're always tilting first quarter. Like, oh, never again. Edwards just sucks. And then end of the game gets here and he's hitting value. So I think they all three need to play, and I think they need to have big games. And if that happens, I see it being close. I do worry, though, because the Nets just, man, KD, I really respect his game. Could get going at any point in time. But, it'll be a fun one to watch for sure.
Yeah, a couple points off of what you mentioned. And when you said, to go the other way, one thing that the Nets do is when they win by a lot usually, right? And especially against the worst teams, and they struggle against the best teams as of right now. So, of course, that can be an argument made for it. And I love your observation on Edwards because I've seen the same thing. It's like a lot of times, Towns is the best player on the floor, but Ant thinks he's the best player on the floor, right? And I think his confidence can be contagious, especially when the team is down, because I do think that Towns, as good as he is, I think he doubts himself sometimes, and you can see it on the floor. I've never seen Anthony Edwards doubt himself ever, right? He can be 0 for 7, right? It's the best shot to have his ball, the ball in his hands. So, definitely you can make good arguments on both sides. All right, let's move over to DFS, right? James Harden, 11-5. Kevin Durant, 11-4. Who would you rather spend for, and who else would we target in the game?
Yeah, so this is where it's tough. Like, I never have a problem with Kevin Durant. He's just always priced appropriately. And, we've seen his ceiling against the Phoenix. He put up 70.
Right.
The other issue, though, is James Harden. He technically, like on paper, is safer because he gets the peripheral stats, but he can be frustrating, too, if he's not aggressive in scoring. So I think if I had to pick one in this matchup, it's tough. I'm fine with either. I'm probably going to stay away. The Timberwolves have played better defensively, and I just see this game like the one player that if he gets going and if he exploits the matchup, it would be Karl-Anthony Towns that could break the slate here. I just see all these stars in this game. If you want to call the Wolves 3, stars, I see them all taking usage away from each other, and I'm just hoping that they all have okay games and that we don't see ceiling games in this matchup.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting. And of course, if one or two of them were to sit, right, this would be like the Clippers situation a couple nights ago where we just jam everybody in there from the Timberwolves.
Yeah. So here's how you play it. If I'm trying to think who's questionable. If Towns, so the biggest
Towns and Edwards are both on the report.
Okay, so
technically they could both sit.
The biggest impact, I think, Towns. So like he would impact D'Lo. They do have a nice pick and roll connection going on. I would love Anthony Edwards then, because I think then it's we're not going to see D'Lo take over a game. He wants to distribute, and he's done a good job at that this year. He looks really good running the offense. But if it's just Anthony Edwards, he's going to get all the usage, and he's going to put the team on his shoulders, and he's going to absolutely ball. So if Karl-Anthony Towns plays, then I think you can kind of downgrade all three of them.
All right, and JT Gristle's asking about player props, and AP, if you see any, throw some in. But JT, so here's what we usually do. I usually take care of the sides and totals, and our guy Tyler Hicks does the player props. But, if you're not aware, we will be doing an NFL prop show pretty much when this one is ending. And so Tyler is preparing for that today. Usually we hit you with player props left and right. JSU gave out some great ones yesterday, but we'll probably be more sides, totals, DFS oriented just for today. But we'll get Tyler back on a regular basis here. So thank you for asking that. And like I said, AP, if you see some, let me know. Usually I just go with the Tyler and then, of course, the guest because you guys are analyzing this. But remember, JT, if you hear us saying, hey, we're targeting this guy in DFS, that means that we like his overs there, right? If we say we're fading the guy in DFS, we're looking towards his unders there. So still get a little bit of correlation. Of course, and if you have an individual question, we will do our best to answer it as we go through the show. The Orlando Magic are +3 heading to Houston to take on the Rockets. AP, the Rockets, winners of 4 in a row. So they were 1-16. Silas, they put his job on the line, and he said, you know what? Forget this development. I'm just going to go with the best players. We can argue about whether or not that was the right decision, but they have won 4 in a row since doing so, led by Christian Wood. Jalen Green has not been in the lineup recently, and I think he will be out tonight. Yeah, still out tonight. Christian Wood is in for sure. Kevin Porter, questionable. DJ Augustin in. And Garuba, he's been out all year. On the Orlando side, I really only see each one more. So they're back to full strength. Of course, Cole Anthony leading that team, and he's been a great story here for the Magic. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, looking at that last game, they did not look like, at least individual player-wise, that they're tanking. Jason Tate took things over when Christian Wood and Kevin Porter Jr. went down. So, yeah, this is a great spot for them to cap off the week kind of undefeated. And I think they do against the Magic. And I think this is going to be a really good game DFS-wise. We have Cole Anthony on one side, who's been an absolute machine, 8.2 price tag. I think he could go nuts here. You would laugh if you saw my projection on him. I have a projection of 48.5 on Cole Anthony. At 8.2, wow. He's going to hit a ton of my builds. It's because I want him to hit more builds, and that's kind of why. But I think he could absolutely put up a score like that. For the Rockets side, I like the side here. I think we got to keep an eye on Kevin Porter, but if he's out, Amari Brooks has looked good. They have other pieces here that could definitely help to run the offense. If anything, just go back to Jason Tate again. He looked phenomenal the other day. I think Christian Wood, so a good bet tonight, Christian Wood is going to play. He's already been confirmed in, had some ankle issues. I think he's fine. What happens is people are going to overreact to that, rightfully so. He was an absolute bust last game. But he was coming off a nice, 50 piece, but I think he rebounds here. So, and speaking of rebounds, if you're looking for a prop, over 11.5, I think, is a decent bet there. This guy's been an absolute – or wait, I'm looking at Clint Capella. Well, hold on. Let me – 10.5. There we go. 10.5. Even better. I definitely think if he plays his full allotment of minutes that he's going to be right there getting those boards. I mean, this guy's been an absolute rebounding machine. So I think this is going to be a fun game, a really good game for DFS purposes. I think Christian Wood's going to go virtually unowned. And so he's a really interesting play in tournaments. I mean, he showed massive upsides in these matchups that are good for centers. And against the Magic is one of the better matchups on the board against centers. So, I'm not afraid of Mo Bamba or Wendell Carter down there in the paint.
Yeah, they're great players, but they're both kind of undersized. And I think a player like Christian Wood could take advantage of that. So I definitely agree with you on the prop. There's a guy that I really like, Şengün. He's at 4,100. I talked about trying to stack that Philly game with the Stars. So I'm going to need to get some lower owned guys in there. If I could, he's been pretty consistent that he gives me 20 a night at 4K. That's 5 points, per $1,000 spent. Does that seem like a good option, or do you think there's better ones on the board?
My one problem is, why aren't they giving him more minutes? They had the perfect opportunity when Wood went down. Instead, they brought Daniel Theis back in. He'd been
I think that was because of the losing. I think he's so bad defensively. He's just really bad defensively at this point of his career.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. So if the minutes were there, I think it would be a really interesting play. I mean, the guy's fun to watch. I'll say that. He definitely is, especially on the offensive side of the ball. But no, for me, I don't know if I'm going to get to Wood if they're rotating those three bigs, though. I would like in my main tournament, but in multi-entry formats, I'm definitely going to have some different stacks of this game.
You mentioned Theis, right? He's only 3,100, and he might get to me to that 20 points as well. Any interest in him in a complete pine?
No,
No.
I mean, they might not play him if Wood is crushing. Yeah, too much of a risk there. He's a guy I've already excluded from my player pool. If you do want a 3.1 guy in this game, Terence Ross. He's been pretty bad all season. He used to be a guy that would come off the bench. Do you remember those days? I mean, it was last year and the year before. He'd come off and take 18 shots a game. We're not seeing it this year. Maybe it's a function of Cole Anthony just being, so good. But he's 3-1. There's probably worse plays out there on the board.
All right. That's why I love doing this show with you. I can throw these ideas out here, and you can let me know if I'm stretching it or just getting a little too excited. Let's talk about the New Orleans Pelicans, who are plus 6.5, heading to Dallas to take on the Mavericks. I think we are waiting on Porzingis news, but everyone I've talked to does not expect him to play. So let's go ahead and cap this as this is out. And I think the line movement suggested the books think that as well, because I can't imagine too many people were excited to bet the Pelicans here. They were 7.5 at the opener. It's down to 6.5. Probably, of course, people who hit the openers are more likely to take the dogs. But I think a lot of it has to do with the news. This was a tough one. I mean, you could make a good argument here for New Orleans, but I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas actually just blew them out the water. So even though the Pelicans are going to be a popular play today, I kind of like the Mavericks here. What do you think?
Yeah, so they blew them out the other night. I watched that game because I ended up going heavy Luka. Everyone was on Giannis, everyone was on Jokic, and I thought I could get some nice value going heavy on Luka, who was really low owned. He looked phenomenal, and the Mavericks looked phenomenal. They're like 52% from 3-point in that game. I mean, you should have seen the shots they were making. It was just didn't matter hand and face. They were making everything, which you don't want to see if you want the opposing team to stay within striking distance, which they couldn't do. So, I look at it as if they get Josh Hart back and if they don't make 52% of their three-pointers, I think this game stays a little bit closer. Okay. I wanted Porzingis to play tonight because if he's playing, people just assume, okay, I'm going to lower Luka and we can move off of that game. However, it's not the case. Porzingis on the court has actually helped Luka in his usage. They actually have a positive correlation as far as fantasy goes. And so what's funny is with Porzingis out, more people will get on Luka versus if Porzingis was in. And so we would get kind of a little bit of leverage there if Porzingis would have played. If with Porzingis being out, what we're going to get more of is Jalen Brunson off the bench, and he's going to be that key six guy that could play starter-like minutes. He's actually the guy that's impacted Luka far more than Porzingis. And the reason is pretty simple. It's Brunson fights for rebounds. He wants the ball in his hand. So that's just more, time with Luka, with the ball not in Luka's hands. And so it lowers his usage rate just a tiny bit. I think Jalen Brunson here is a really good play at 4.9 on DraftKings, assuming he works into that 6-man role like we've seen in the past. And then I'm fine with Luka. I'm still fine with Luka. I don't think you need to go there, but the guy looks good right now. I think the play, though, is if Luka goes off, you need a piece from the other side. I don't always say that you need a stack in NBA DFS, but you need this game to stay close. I think you want to look at Josh Hart. I think Brandon Ingram is just super frustrating. So for me, it's Josh Hart if he plays. And if he doesn't play, I'm looking at Devontae Graham or Nickeil Alexander-Walker off the bench.
All right. Let's check in with the chat real quick. We the People does not think Porzingis will play. So, of course, that would make Brunson a viable option at 4.9. And I think JT Gristle, right? I mean, I agree with him here. I would go for this, right? Because who's going to be down there grabbing rebounds? Valanciunas is going to seem to be, taller and bigger than most of the other men down there. I like his over prop here, and I think he will get the minutes. Do you agree with JT and I?
Yeah, so I think what Dallas did last time is I think they put Boban in there and just roughed him up down in the paint. Yeah. He was bullying him. So it'll be interesting to see how they play it. But, yeah, I mean, that number, if it stays close, I could definitely see him getting there.
Yeah, Valanciunas has been – talk about a DFS surprise, right? I bet you before the season, you guys didn't think you'd be talking about Valanciunas as much as he ends up being on the NBA Hardwood Live and the Final Countdown, of course, brought to you by Run Pure Sports. If you're not already a member, head on over to runpuresports.com. Use the promo code GETBETS to become a member and get access to all the premium shows. The Boston Celtics are +8, heading to Utah to take on the Jazz. Jazz -8, total of 209.5. This is another one where I like the dog here, but it's tough because I understand why these spreads are so high because Utah covers and they blow people off the water here. So let's look at the matchup. And one of the reasons I did like it was, Gobert's really tough to drive on, right? So if you're a team that needs to feast at the rim and lives on layups and dunks, he's really tough. But I do like Boston's ability to shoot in the mid-range and from behind the arc. So I think they can be effective on offense without necessarily constantly attacking the rim here. They can keep it close. Obviously, Jaylen Brown on a minutes limit. No, he's now out. That's fine. I was only projecting him for 15 to 20 to begin with. Royce O'Neal's back for Utah. What do you think? Do you think the Celtics can keep this one close in a very tough place to play in Utah?
Yeah, usually a rule of mine is avoiding teams going to Utah. Just tough. I mean, this team plays good at home. They play good in the regular season. But you make a really interesting point. I mean, the Celtics aren't really a team that needs to get points in the paint. You got Tatum that loves his little ISO game, and he loves deep shots. So if they're hitting their threes, I think they keep it close. So it's going to come down to 3-point shooting in this game. Marcus Smart has actually been shooting the ball better. He's not a guy that you're typically relying on to be a scorer, but he's shown the ability to kind of dial it in from 3-point range at times. But I think this game is going to come down to Jason Tatum. So it's a stay away from me. But if they were to cover, I think you should like Tatum in DFS formats. I'm probably going to be underweight, though, on the spot.
I think this is a tough game on DFS for both. And I know that watching you guys on the Hardwood Show and, of course, JSU on the Final Countdown, you guys have no problem just completely fading a game. When I tune in later, I mean, what do you think the chances are that the expert panel is going to be fading this game? Because I think maybe 2 or 3 of you guys will. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this game, so I already have it kind of as a fade. The one guy, so what I have in there is tournament plays, Jason Tatum and Donovan Mitchell. So we've seen shooting guards have a lot of success against the Celtics, which is kind of surprising. They have some good defenders there. But for me, it would be, Mitchell and Tatum. I don't see myself getting there. But with the Heat chart, I don't want to fully be 100% transparent. I don't want to move someone off of a play. If someone has a read on Tatum and Mitchell or this game, I want to make sure that, my thoughts are those would be the best pieces to get exposure to. I just don't know if I'll be getting there.
I mean, I know I mentioned it, but I think this heat map was a great idea. I'd love to use it at the start of the day and kind of build a lineup off that, right? And then just adjust while I'm watching the Hardwood Live show. And maybe, they say, hey, jam this guy in here. And they're, okay, that's a better option at this price. Or, they might talk me out someone that you're high on. And then, of course, the most common problem, which is injury news, completely changes everything. But I think it's a great tool. And if you're already a member of Run for Sports, you have to be checking that out. I think for me now, it's the first thing I look at when starting my daily fantasy day. Let's move on to the next game. The Phoenix Suns, right? What a matchup. How are they +7 after just stomping the Warriors here? Yes, I know Devin Booker's not going to play. Is he worth that much to the line? Is this just like the Travis Mangone revenge angle? This line seemed high, but I was hesitant to get involved. I felt like, hey, just because I have a model and I trust it, sometimes these guys know more than me. Were you surprised that the Suns are catching 7 in Golden State?
Yeah, there's a few reasons why. So one, the Suns are playing 3 and 4. They're also without Devin Booker. And then two, if you go back to that game that they played in Phoenix, the Warriors had 22 turnovers. I think the Suns had like a 13-point advantage on turnovers alone. And the Warriors still were in that game. They still had a chance to win. And if you look at three-point shooting, the Warriors were surprising, like 35%. Steph Curry, hats off to Mikal Bridges. He completely locked them up. So I think we were talking about this game earlier. I watched, I think the adjustments are pretty easy for the Warriors. What happened was, DeAndre Ayton had a big game. And when they were switching, they kept switching, and then eventually Steph Curry would end up on DeAndre Ayton in the paint, and then Paul would just feed it to him, and he would get an easy look. And so I think what they do is maybe we see some more fighting through screens instead of just pure switches, depending on where the ball's at. The other thing, too, is you have one less shooter. So in Devin Booker out there, you see, the Suns still have multiple guys that can get it done. But I think that you see Draymond and maybe one other guy jam DeAndre Ayton in the paint. I think if you're the Warriors, you take away him, you force outside shots, and it just becomes a shooting fest again. And I think the Warriors get the win tonight. The spread is interesting. I do not feel good about the Suns +7. That has to be the popular bet, right? It never feels good to take a team in a close game coming off a loss against, or coming off going against a team that just beat them, and coming around, they're favored by 7. It never feels good. I'd be interested to see where the public's at on this one.
Yeah, I'd be interested too, because this number's been pretty steady. In fact, I saw 6.5 earlier, so it looks like the Warriors are taking money. I guess if you're modeling and you have Devin Booker worth 4 points, I don't. I thought he was worth 2. I had this line coming in at 4.5, and I thought it was going to be too high. So I'm definitely really surprised about there. I guess I lean Phoenix, but I'm happy to stay away because you have to understand, when you're making these numbers and creating on your own lines, where your weaknesses and where your flaws are. And maybe because of the situation, I am undervaluing a lot of things that the books and the public move this number to. So even though I lean Phoenix, I'm fine staying away. A total of 215. Do you think they come back and go over here?
Yeah, it's another you would think so with all the shooters that these teams have, but without Devin Booker, we saw it in the second half. The Suns aren't going to win a game in a shootout without him on the court, in my opinion. So I think we see an emphasis on defense. The one concern, and people brought this up in chat, is what are the legs going to be like? Mikal Bridges has been playing 40 minutes every single night. Now he's on the 3 and 4. I think DFS-wise, here's what you do. I think you play Cam Johnson. I think you play Cam Payne on the Suns side. I think you set a rule on the Warriors side that you don't want Steph Curry or Jordan Poole in the same lineup. This is a rule that you can apply each and every slate. If Poole's going off, Steph Curry's usually not going off. If Steph Curry's going off, Poole's not going off. Those two definitely do not correlate well, and rightfully so. They had their best defenders on Curry. They shut him down. Poole was hitting everything, and so I don't feel the need to run it back with anyone on the Warriors side. Curry just feels a little bit overpriced. but I could definitely see him getting it done. It's just, man, the Suns, what do they lose? They lose Devin Booker, who what? I mean, he's not their best defender, so they gain more defense. So it just seems like a spot where you don't have to run it back with anyone. But I played Cam Johnson and Cam Payne last night. I'm going right back to them. They're green core plays on the heat map. I'm going to be very overweight those two guys.
What is Cam Johnson's price tag coming in at?
4-2.
Ooh, that's some value there.
So here's my thinking is I think Ayton. So we already saw McGee. They exposed him. Like, he was not good. If you rewatch that game, which I had it on in the background this morning, I think if they can kind of make things tough on Ayton, who was phenomenal in this matchup the first time, I think what happens is the Suns counter by going completely small, where we get Cam Payne, Cam Johnson out there, and you really have no big guy. And we saw that for a brief amount of time last game while they're giving Ayton rest, and they did not trust McGee. So I think we see some of that. I think Cam Payne and Johnson get a ton of minutes here.
All right, that's interesting. Let's move on to the last game of the night. And, hey, who would have thought this before the season? But this was originally scheduled to be the ESPN game, but ESPN flexed it. They said, we want the Suns and the Warriors instead. So the Battle of Los Angeles is now on League Pass only. The Los Angeles Clippers right now are catching 2.5. I said headed to LA. I mean, they both are there. It's the same thing. Right now I'm looking at the injury report. I see Batum out. Davis probable. He's always probable. LeBron James probable, but I'm pretty sure he's going to play. Dwight Howard will be starting. Avery Bradley's probable. Paul George is in. I like the Clippers here. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I'm not taking the Lakers. They got to show me something before I can take them.
Yeah,
so,
I'm
with you.
Kings, I'm not ready to bet on you, right?
I mean, man, but LeBron being back does help. You got to think that they figure things out. But this team just, gosh, they don't look good at all. They look worse. Usually in DFS, when LeBron's out, we want to jam in Davis. We want to jam in Westbrook. That's not been good. Like, it's not been the case. Even against the Kings, where I thought it was like one of the best spots for sure for Russell Westbrook. He struggled. He let us down completely without LeBron in there. I guess he went off one time and then he really struggled the next time. But yeah, I'm gonna be I'll be off the Lakers if all three of them are playing. And then I have some interest in Paul George here. I don't have a ton of tape like on the Clippers, just not a team I enjoy watching right now. I'm definitely going to watch this matchup against the Lakers tonight. Obviously, with LeBron back in there, you could make the case that ESPN, maybe they're kicking themselves, but I think we all still want to see the Warriors and Suns, rematch. But Paul George, the usage, it still looks like it's there, but DFS-wise, he's not been putting up the numbers we're accustomed to seeing. So we could see it in a primetime matchup, against the Lakers here, against LeBron. But I'm a little bit torn on what to do with Paul George.
All right. That is the whole slate for today. Would you like to start, and we'll build a nice little core, and then we'll go ahead and give out some best bets?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
Do you want me to start?
Yeah, why don't you start it up?
All right, I'm gonna go with let's go with Cole Anthony, 8.2 point guard position. I think he has a big night.
All right, Cole Anthony at 8.2. What do you think of me putting Evan Mobley in there as our second option? This would be more of a mid-tier than if we did that, right? So I'm seeing
I like
Evan
it a lot.
Mobley. He is power forward or center eligible. I'll probably just put him at the power forward spot at 6,700 and throw it over to you.
Yeah, okay. So I'm trying to see. We don't need to correlate it with anyone on the Washington side. Let's go. I mean, I know I have my two values I absolutely love, but let's go Jalen Brunson. I think he's going to get a lot of run here, a lot of minutes, and I think we see him be kind of that key six guy off the bench.
All right. What do you think? Should I spend up? We're at $6K left per player right now. Should I spend up here or go for another value?
I think you can afford like an upper range guy, as long as it's not like Luka or someone.
Can we afford Trey here, or is that going to make it hamstring?
I think we can afford Trey. Let me plug it in.
That gives us $5K left at the last 4 spots.
Yeah, we can afford Trey. I like that.
All right. I like the way that we've started here, guys. So what we've done, we put Cole Anthony at point guard, Jalen Brunson at shooting guard, Evan Mobley at power forward, and Trae Young's filling up the guard spot. So there you go. There's a good way to get started. But remember, you're going to find all the best news and all the best breakdowns by following the Run Pure Sports YouTube channel. They will be going live here in 7 minutes. So make sure you head on over there. And since we only got 7 minutes, AP, we better get right to the best bets. What is your best bet today, side total or prop?
Yeah, I'm going to say let me go ahead and do yours first. I need to look at a couple things.
All right, this is kind of a weird pick because I'm choosing 2 of the worst teams in the NBA to bet on with a lot of high-profile matchups tonight. But give me the Houston Rockets to continue their winning streak. This is their first year in the rebuild. And like I said, with the pressure being on Silas, right, these aren't these developmental rotations anymore. If Şengün isn't playing defense, he's not Lyndon Learn out there. He's jamming Tyson there. Christian Wood is back, and Jalen Green, well, I think that he's a great player and will be a fantastic player within the next 3 or 4 years. Obviously has some limitations now. Probably if you're betting on them in a game-by-game basis, having Green out helps the team. Give me the Houston Rockets -3.
I like that. That was one of mine on the list. I'm going to go Warriors -7. Primetime game, ESPN. Yeah, I think if the adjustments that they need to make aren't that many. I mean, limit turnovers, I think clamp down, limit Ayton's look. They were letting him get deep in the paint. It's an easy fix. I think you're going to see a lot of Draymond just annoying him, keeping him outside, not allowing him to get deep in the paint, because what was happening is just they didn't have the size. You had you'd end up with Curry and Wiggins kind of clamping down on them. So I think they make some adjustments, and it's going to become a shooting contest. And I think the Lakers or the Warriors pull away, win by 12.
All right. He likes the Warriors by double digits. The market does as well. So thank you, everybody, for joining us one more time. Just a reminder, head on over to runpuresports.com, become a member. This show is brought to you by Run Pure Sports. And since we are here doing this for you daily, giving out the picks for free, please give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and hey, share with your friends, man. You don't know how much a retweet means. And I know I've been teasing the t-shirt giveaway, but because I was running a little late today, things will be back to normal for me next week, and we will get on that, and I can't wait to get you guys involved with that. So we the people loves your bet. I'm on the Houston Rockets, guys. We're also going to be doing a prop show, but hey, if you're making a DFS lineup, you can go ahead and just watch that prop show later. I noticed we don't have very many people live when we do that, but we get a lot of views. So hey, enjoy the NBA Hardwood show that's going to come up on the Run Pure Sports YouTube channel. But don't forget to double on back and check out that prop show that Tyler and I are about to record before Sunday morning. AP, thank you for joining me. Anything else you'd like to say to everyone before we sign off?
No, yeah, we got a lot of content coming this weekend. Obviously, NFL. I think a nice UFC card. But again, get on over there and watch the Hardwood show with Hoop, JT Hayes, and I should know it off the top of my head. Mangone or Title. Has to be one of those two. So get on over there and watch the show with them.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and run